Up, please.
Well, I mean, I'm honestly trying not to be rude here, Thunderfoot, but I'm afraid I haven't found your arguments particularly convincing.
Oddly enough, nor I yours.
Yeah, I think we're coming from quite different starting positions here in terms of what we want to achieve and how we think the world looks like.
I think we share the same goals. I mean, this goes almost back to the very first point, is we more or less share the same goals, which is the diminishment of...
We do share the same goals, but we have different... We are effectively in different starting points because of how we see the world.
But even with the proposed, to move from, once you've decided goals, you need enough, you need the relevant data to decide on an actionable mechanism to get from A to B, right? I mean, I know you disagree every time I say this, but the actionable items that the goals that I see is it's not quite keep blasphemy or blasphemy laws real or effective out of the West. It's not quite all other considerations secondary, but you would be willing to soften the ability to achieve that goal to try and moderate the Islam in this big black band in the middle there.
No, well, as I've said repeatedly, I think the one leads to the other, and that
But the time scale is wrong. I mean, the time scale. These people have not had.
Let's not get into this, Thunderfoot, because it's to be honest, because I'm knackered.
Same. Yeah.
We are starting in different places here, and yeah. Oh, I mean, I hope I did a decent job of answering things. I mean, I have to say, Thunderfoot, I hope you would accept that the points I made, which you were so dismissive of at the beginning, are rather stronger than you initially accepted, than you initially charged.
If you'd have actually started,
there's a final thing. I'm slightly uncomfortable, as I tried to say at the start, that I ended up being somehow the champion of this sort of discomfort with what you've been doing and advocating.
Well, that is de facto your position.
Out there, hang on, who made good, solid responses to you that were address the issue, tackle the ball, not the player. People like Skeptical Engineer, people like Bespoke Group UK, the True Puka, Fiscal Conservative, and so on. This debate is going to go on, and I hope people will look at all of the different arguments that are being put out there. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Thunderfoot. Believe it or not, you're actually one of the reasons I started doing YouTube videos. It was a friend of mine who'd come around to visit and showed me on the computer. Have you seen this guy called Thunderfoot on YouTube? I think you were up to Why Do People Laugh at Creationists number 11 at the time. And it was as a result of that I started.
Out of interest, Landon, would you rather that I took this the moderated approach that you want to take with Islam? Do you think that is the right approach to take with creationism? You just need to understand it, to try and get these ideas into their community, to try to more moderate their views, or do you think that there is? You seem to think that the Why Do People Laugh at Creationists was, it was confrontational, it was adversary. You could equally argue that you are just going to polarize people and push more people towards the hardcore creationists.
Because I think creationism in the United States of America is in a rather different position to Islam in the world, and so different tactics are appropriate. Creationists in the US do not consider themselves to be an oppressed minority in the same way that Muslims feel, well, not a minority, but an oppressed group, in the way that
No, they do.
that Muslims do around the world, feeling that they're result of they're getting double standards. No. The other thing I would say, Thunderfoot, is that in your Why Do People Laugh at Creationists video, you're going after creationists.
Yeah.
If you were to do videos like you do, like the Why Do People Laugh at Creationists, on some of the Muslim creationists out there,
I mean, this is just
I think people
wrong.
would welcome that. I think you must see that there is a difference between going after specific things people say and saying you are factually wrong on this.
No, I mean there is an important. There are, if you like, defending the level playing field of free speech has been a theme even through the Why Do People Laugh at Creationists series, because for this very self-same reason that if we don't protect that, that undermines the mechanism that built civilization, and in that sense, I gave the creationists just as much of a hard time over the freedom of speech issue as I did with the Islamic law.
Yeah, absolutely. You did, but there that was a Got That Funk is putting that in chat. T-Foot is sincere about his commitment to free speech. Absolutely agreed. But I think I don't doubt your commitment to it, but it's just the way you've gone about it is rather different in the rather specific attacks on statements people have made and actions they have taken, and this generalised stuff which I consider to be rather inaccurate.
You could have said the same thing about the creationists. I mean, not all creationists are anti-free speech, but you could have well got that impression out of some of the videos I made.
Particular creationists. Sure, I mean, the way you go about it is different. I would have thought you can see that there's a difference between Why Do People Laugh at Creationists, the way you did those, and the videos you've done about Islam. There is quite a difference there. I mean, if you were to go after creationists in Islam, you'd probably find quite a lot of support there. I mean, I've tried to do it with, I don't know if you know QWERTY F-Shag, you might find him fun to look at. You can do the same thing with Islam, but you're not doing the same thing. You're going after different groups with different features and in different ways. You may be doing it from your point of view to the same end.
You could be very dismissive of these as saying you could say these are you're just straw manning isolated people who are completely crazy to make the whole of creationists look bad. I mean, it's a universal argument that can be applied everywhere, and in that sense, it really doesn't mean much.
Simply disagree.
Well, what are you saying that all creationists believe the same thing?
No, I'm not at all. But
well, then, so what's the difference?
The point is, you were in the Why Do People Laugh at Creationists? You were going after particular sets of politically active creationists and creationists active on YouTube, and going after what they were actually doing and what they were actually advocating, as opposed to what you've been doing on Islam, where you haven't been going after specific people. You haven't been, in my opinion, I know you disagreed, as well informed, and you've gone after the whole thing rather than a section of it.
I would agree that in part, the threat is different. You get a death threat from a creationist and everyone laughs. You get a death threat from an imam and people take it seriously.
I generally I don't take death threats seriously.
What about Salman Rushdie? Should he take it seriously? What about Theo Van Gogh? I mean, there is a legitimate concern.
But try working in the defence industry for a while. You get used to them. I'm afraid it's not a novelty for me.
Not a novelty, but there is a reason why. Whatever, Herschel Ali. Yeah, these are people who actually take. With good reason, they take the death.
Against them was serious. The ones
bravo.
Thrown at me on, but you have to look at the situation and make an assessment of what's going on. This is, just to finish up on this, there is a difference between the people you're dealing with and why do people are for creationists and your videos on Islam.
Yeah, I agree that Islam really doesn't have a sense of humour over this.
Well, and ultimately, going back to the original question, we had the debate, at the beginning about what kind of world we'd like, religion, and whether we want religion to go away. And my objection was I didn't think it was going to happen. So given the choice, what kind of world do I want? Well, I want one that is, secular and liberal and tolerant. And so the question for me then becomes, how do I achieve that? Perhaps you see why I have so many problems with a lot of what you're doing. Quite apart from
I did exactly the same thing, constructed the model, made the and did what had to be done.
Well, in that case, I think we should probably agree to disagree and leave it there.
Well, no, I mean you've already agreed that this did have a reversing of the chilling effects in the West.
Okay, Thunderfoot, I'm really sorry, but yes, I've agreed with you on some points. Okay, please, but what I've said is there are other parts that are also very effective. That are also very important. That the areas where we've agreed.
Yeah, I agree. There's a cost-benefit analysis.
Thunderfoot, will you please? Sorry, I'm sorry. Thunderfoot, let me finish. It's just I'm a bit tired, and it feels like you're trying to end the thing with a misinterpretation of what I was saying. I agree with you that there are these particular phenomena. What we disagree about is the importance of the phenomena and what other phenomena are at play here. Okay, that's how I see it, and that we've got a different way of looking at the world. We agree on some things about the nature of Islam and so on, but where that fits into the grand scheme of things, I think we disagree on profoundly.
Okay.
Well, anyway.
Just one last thing, just for the record, and I do this to sort of quell any sort of triumphalism on one side or the other. Would you say that you just pwned me?
I'm sorry?
No, I mean it's just this is how you. The last time we talked, you basically said that. And so the irony, of course, being is that neither you nor anyone else decided that it was worth actually putting that video up.
Well, right.
So I mean, it's basically I just want I don't want any sort of, how shall we say, rewriting of history. I mean, would you be happy to say that this was just an interesting conversation and leave it at that?
I would say it was an interesting conversation. I don't think I pwned you. I don't think you pwned me. In our previous discussion, I don't think you pwned me or that I pwned you. I did actually, say at the time that I think what I actually said was, my word, did I just pwn Thunderfoot as a throwaway. Then I was actually quite clear afterwards in saying that I didn't think that was what had happened, because it was actually, the reason it ended was because you and Richard Coughlin had a disagreement. And so the discussion we were having was stopped halfway through.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. And I sort of more or less reciprocate those sentiments.
Grand. Anyway, I need a drink.
Another feeling. Till next time, dude.
Let me see.
Oh, we're still on Skype, which means everyone can still hear you. Oh.
Okay.
Good God.
Well, I'm going to hang up.
Oh,
Take
that's
care,
fine.
everybody.
Yeah, you too. Oh. Now, how many hours work do I actually have to do to put all that shit up? No. So, I mean, was that worth spending 5 hours on, or however long? Good God. It was worth it. Well, I'm glad that people enjoyed the conversation. I mean, fundamental, to an extent, it's irreconcilable differences, but at least we had the discussion, you know? Oh, good grief, I'm pooped today. So is everyone happy that that draws a line under things? In other words, at least, right? At least we've come to this sort of agreement of where we disagree, and someone wants to keep it going. Nah, I've sort of had enough of it. Actually, the one that I should have ended on is that quote from Musharraf, you know, that we, the Muslims, are the most backward, whatever. You know, backward, the most uneducated, the most illiterate, the most unhealthy, the most unenlightened, the most deprived, and the weakest of all the human race. Yeah, I mean, when the leaders of someone like Pakistan's said things like that, you know, I don't think it's particularly controversial if I echo his points, although yeah, I know he was a dictator. But he did. I mean, when he was actually making that speech, it was more about him. He was talking about educating Islam. No, not Islam. Educating Pakistan to what he described as the real jihad. Sorry, the real crusade. The real crusade is to get yourself educated. I mean, just out of interest, and I was sort of musing with this with someone earlier. I mean, can anyone name any Islamic artists? I mean, we got 300 people in here or something. Can anyone name any Islamic artists? Or even for that matter, an Islamic piece of art? Yeah. I'm sure there are plenty, but can actually anyone name one? You know, I mean, if you came down to, you know, Renaissance painters, you got whatever, Van Gogh, you got musicians like Beethoven. So what? I mean, look, I mean, yeah, Cat Stevens. Yeah, Taj Mahal. There is architecture, but it's typically religious architecture. You know, you could argue things like the Sistine Chapel are also in that sort of ilk, but anyone got any thoughts on why that is? I mean, seeing as we got 300 minds here, we could as well sort of give it a go. I'm going to bring DPR in here for yucks. He can go and talk to people whilst I DPR. DPR, you're ugly and everyone hates you. DPR, you're ugly and everyone hates you.
Yeah, well, I'm used to that.
Good God. How many hours? 5? You realise that's almost as much as all... No, actually, that's as long as all of the Why the People Laugh at Creation is put together. And I can tell you which one I think people would be better spend their time doing. Oh, I'm sorry, baby.
I've not got headphones, so I'm not sure how this will work.
It's not echoing too bad.
Headphones, if you want.
Oh.
Give me 1 minute.
Oh, so has anyone got any other interesting points to they want to bring up? Like, oh, I don't know. Chess, yeah. Or, why? I mean, the thing that I find perplexing, I mean, do people really think that... I mean, did you actually gain anything out of this? Like, does anyone think differently now than they did to begin with? So slightly. So it's mostly no. It's 80% no. Okay, DPR, can you do polls, or do I have to do it all?
No, you've got to do that.
Oh, hang on. Okay, create new. Okay, proceed. Do you think differently now? Oh, come on, you son of a bitch. Don't criticise my spelling, I'm doing this quick. Yes. Somewhat. Yes. In fact, those are the only answers, aren't they? No. Somewhat yes. Or no. Activating poll now. Okay, vote now, people.
I don't know, can people actually hear me at the moment?
I don't know, can they? Can people hear DPR? They should. Oh no, because
Oh yeah.
no, they can. Why is? Oh, I've got to refresh.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah, well. Yeah, okay. So, 50% of people, this was essentially a waste of time. Well, waste of time. Maybe it confirms what they knew.
I think at least 50% of it was a waste of time.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is this: that I think it was fairly obvious from the outset where the true areas of difference lay between you. And the first hour, if not 2 hours, was spent with what I
haggling over
was,
pointless detail.
Petty.
Haggling over pointless detail.
And whatever.
Yeah.
It was irrelevant.
But those were the substantives. I mean, if you like, where else could you have started?
Can you just address this? If you're getting echo, mute me on Blog TV. Mute the co-host. Okay, is that better?
Okay, I'm going to do one more poll, and
Right, well, whilst you're doing that, let me explain where I was coming from. I don't think that the 24 points was a constructive way of entering the discussion, nor was it necessary. I think that it would have been much straightforward if you'd got to what I perceive as the actual core of the problem. That is to say, I don't think that anyone would say that there is any, that there's nothing wrong with Islam, the expansion of Islam, or the treatment of people in Islamic countries, and so on and so forth. You can use whatever criteria you want. Most people say there's a problem. So, you know, I just think it's a pretty irrelevant wasting any time discussing that. What was, in my view, always at the heart of this was the difference in approach that you take and that London would take. That is to say, you are much more full in your face, belligerent, where London sees that there is a way of dealing with what he also accepts as a problem in a much more sympathetic and what he sees in the long term as being a much more constructive way of doing it. That is what was at the heart of the disagreement between the two of you, and if you'd cut straight to that chase, which you did in the last hour or so of the discussion, then I think it would have been much more interesting. And what also is much more interesting is the demeanour and body language of both of you actually became much more open. And
I think